Ok. La combinación de los pronombres de objeto directo e indirecto. ¿Cómo combinamos los pronombres? Now that you know how to identify direct and indirect objects and their corresponding pronouns, you can work to combine the two in a sentence. As a reminder, here are your indirect object pronouns as well as your direct object pronouns for your reference. When you combine object pronouns, indirect object pronouns always precede direct object pronouns, which precede the verb. So it's going to go indirect object pronoun, direct object pronoun, verb. Por ejemplo, nos sirven los vegetales. We would have nos los sirven a nosotros, because with indirect objects, they can repeat. But remember, they cannot for direct objects. When you combine object pronouns, indirect object pronouns always precede direct object pronouns, which precede the verb, which is what I just said, but that order is important. The indirect object pronouns lay and lace change to say when followed by a direct object pronoun. This is arguably the most important piece of combining the two pronouns together. So if I had le doy la diagnosis al paciente, and if I'm going step by step to make sure I have this right, I would have le la doy al paciente. Because I know that al paciente is my indirect object pronoun, so it's le. I know that la diagnosis is my direct object, so the pronoun is la, and then I have my verb. However, we cannot have Layla in Spanish. If you ever find yourself saying Layla, something is wrong. So there's one more step that you need to do. You need to change that indirect object pronoun from lay to say. So the correct way to say this sentence is se la doy al paciente. I give it to him or her. Tenemos una regla especial. Combined object pronouns precede the verb except in cases of infinitive verbs and gerunds. Here they are again. So place the two pronouns, indirect object pronoun, then direct object pronoun. Remember, it always goes indirect, then direct, in front of the verb sequence, or attach them to the end. So with an infinitive verb, we can have el médico me va a explicar los resultados a mí. My first option at the beginning of the verb sequence would be el médico me los va a explicar. If I want to put them at the end, I can say el médico va a explicármelos. If you attach two pronouns to the end of an infinitive, you must add an accent 3 vowels from the end. So if we have, you can see my cursor, if we have explicármelos, we have the two pronouns. I'm going to find my first vowel and count 3 from the back. 1, 2, 3. Explicármelos. If we have gerunds, we have el médico me está explicando los resultados a mí. I could put my pronouns at the beginning of the verb sequence and say, el médico me los está explicando, or I can put them at the end, el médico está explicándomelos. If you attach two pronouns to the end of a gerund, you must now add an accent 4 vowels from the end. So in está explicándomelos, I would go to the end and find my first vowel and count back 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Explicándomelos. Vamos a practicar. We have given you a sentence. Jaime le entrega su proyecto final a la profesora. And what we would like you to do is to rewrite this sentence by combining the object pronouns. There are a lot of steps to this practice, so you're going to want to identify your direct object plus the pronoun. You're going to want to identify your indirect object plus its pronoun, and then you're going to want to put them all together. Remember that it goes indirect object pronoun, direct object pronoun, and then your verb. I recommend you pause this video so that you have time to think this through before the answers come. La respuesta. The answer to this sentence would be Jaime se lo entrega a la profesora. So to talk you through this step by step in case this was confusing, you would look at the original sentence, you identify your verb, which is entrega. You ask yourself, ¿Qué entrega Jaime a la profesora? The answer would be su proyecto final. So there's my direct object, el proyecto final. That changes to lo. That's my pronoun. Then I find my verb again, entrega, and I say, ¿A quién entrega su proyecto final? And it's a la profesora, so I know that it's le. It's also already given for me because remember, it can repeat. So now I would have Jaime, indirect object pronoun le, direct object pronoun lo, entrega. But I know that I cannot have le lo in Spanish because the two are combined. I have to change le to se, and that's how I get Jaime se lo entrega. a la profesora can repeat if you would like it to. Tenemos otro ejemplo. Go ahead and pause your screen. Remember to identify your direct object, its pronoun, your indirect object, and its pronoun, and then rewrite your sentence. La respuesta de esta frase es Vicente me las regala. Las refers to unas flores, and me to me. Vicente gives them to me. So if you have any questions, I recommend taking notes and asking your instructor about any parts of this video that may not have made sense.